Welcome to the Onyx Pathcast. I'm one of your hosts, Eddy Webb, and with me are Matthew Dawkins.
Hello.
And Dixie Cochran. Yes. The excitement you hear in our voices is the fact that it's actually been a few weeks since we've been able together to record. We had a bunch of recording before vacations and conventions, and then we had a live broadcast with Travis Legg where he was recording us, but we were interviewing him. That was interesting. So it's actually been a while since we've gotten together in the same quote-unquote room, as it were. So
yeah. You abandoned me is what happened. I got abandoned.
You got left behind?
Yes, I was very lonely. I've had no one to bitch to about work stuff for like weeks. It's been real sad.
See, I appreciate the absence. I take the view of how can I miss you if you won't fuck off? And now that you have fucked off and returned, Eddy, I'm glad to see you again. Hear you again, anyway. Seeing you in this stretch.
Right, I mean, you don't actually look at me. So you can tell we've really missed each other.
I honestly, truly have. Like,
no, I know.
I talk to y'all fairly frequently, so when Eddy was gone for like a couple of weeks, it felt like I was like, oh no, who do I talk to? I talked to Matthew a few times, but like, you got a family and stuff. I don't want to bother you. Alone with my computer.
We had a lovely conversation about Werewolf one evening.
We did.
Yeah, it was quite out of the blue, but lovely to always speak about Werewolf the Forsaken at the drop of a hat.
That doesn't sound sincere.
It's totally spontaneous situation.
Yeah, no, I love talking about role-playing games. It's obviously my bread and butter. So no, Dixie, if ever you need to chat about our industry, our hobby, our games, you feel free to call. It's honestly no bother.
I'm going to start calling Matthew at 3 a.m. his time every night. After I've had like a glass of wine, I'm just like, Matthew, let's talk about the role-playing games industry.
Right. Oh my God, Shadowrun dice pools. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, I still think the industry's been dead since Wizards of the Coast took over D&D. It's been on life support since then. Role-playing is ruined.
Clearly, it's just awful.
Mm-hmm.
Well, since you guys like talking about role-playing games, let's do some of that. Because it's been Gen Con's coming on, and also we're deep in our slate of projects, we thought it'd be a good time to talk about games that excite us. Probably upcoming games, that's new and interesting, but also just games that we're eager to get back into at some point. But also, since it's been a few weeks and we're all a bit rusty, it's probably going to be just also whatever comes to mind during the course of this conversation. It's going to be a bit of a excitement ramble, if you will, through the weeds of whatever the game industry is in front of us. That analogy fell apart completely in the middle, so I apologize.
Yeah, it was like all the games are weeds. Like,
right? Yeah, it's they're all, you have to pull them up and
it's time to hack through the thorny jungle of the RPG industry with our machetes.
You'd think I'd be so much better at words. Yet here we are.
I have so many friends that are writers. I write, I read for a living, and there's so many times that I'm just saying words and I'm like, I don't know what words I'm using right now. Like written word and speaking are very, very different things.
Oh my God, is that true? I feel like I have to constantly prep my do public speaking. I feel like I have like kind of rehearse and channel and prepare what I'm saying, even though I may not use those exact words in the actual talk. I just feel like I need to kind of get the structure of it around my mouth before I can actually say it.
That's typical, I think. Just trying to kind of prep a little bit.
Yeah. Well, some people can. I mean, I know some friends of mine who could just grab a microphone, like off the top of their head, do an entire presentation, and they just astound me.
I think for me, it would depend on what it was on.
That's true.
I can generally speak at length about any topic for at least an hour.
Well, yeah, that was the weirdest thing you ever told me, was that one of your early videos for V5, when they were doing the when you were doing the promotional videos, You were like, yeah, I didn't prepare for that at all. I just talked for 30 minutes into the camera. And I was like, what? You didn't stumble.
Wow.
Like, you just knew stuff.
No, all of those World of Darkness videos on the World of Darkness channel and the videos on my channel, they were never scripted.
Really?
Sometimes I would, if I was doing a review of a game, I would make a bullet point list of like chapter headers, so I knew the order of which to cover things. But if I was just talking about Clan Ventru or the state of the sects in Vampire the Masquerade or something like that, I would just rattle on. And it's only, to be fair with World of Darkness, it's just because I know the material so ridiculously well. Maybe if I was asked to speak about what's a game I don't know very well? If I was asked to speak about Dystopia Rising for an hour, I might struggle. But I'd probably make some really fun stuff up.
Right. And you can play a mushroom. What? No, that's not in the game. No, totally, you can play a mushroom.
Matthew's next video will be on Dystopia Rising Evolution. And he will speak for at least an hour.
Well, the thing people found most startling about those World of Darkness videos is how I don't blink in them for a good 30 minutes or so. I have somehow managed to refine the art of just not blinking while I'm speaking at length. Don't know what it is. If I stop speaking, I will blink. But if I carry on talking in character, I can just lock eyes with the camera lens and just keep going on and on and on.
Wait,
So,
do you
yeah.
actually not blink during this?
No. I mean, what I would do instead is I would just move my eyes. So I know that sounds silly, but if I feel my eyes getting dry, which I don't usually, I will just look off to the side slightly and then I'll look back at the lens, and that's enough to make me not need to blink.
You're a lizard. You're a lizard creature.
It is known.
You're actually some kind of fish person.
He does live underwater.
Like,
Surely I'd
People
need
need to
more
blink.
water. I know people need to blink, but I'm not people.
Speaking of catchphrases, and actually, I should explain that reference.
Though. We weren't speaking of catchphrases.
I know. I realize I should explain that to the audience.
Okay.
Side note: we've not yet engaged the topic, but. Do you hear the love I get? The support? I miss you so
just
much. I'm not going to make
busting
fun
your
of you on a
balls.
pub podcast.
on a pubcast?
Ooh, that sounds
Podcast.
fun.
Ooh, podcast. I've never done a drunk podcast. No.
We should in Midwinter.
The catchphrase reference, actually, because I wanted to say to the audience because they may have suggestions. We are looking at the possibility of doing Onyx Pathcast merchandise. So like get shirts and mugs that you can buy, and we've already got some ideas. Like we're going to do the logos for the various episodes and the like. But one of the things we've been trying to rack our brains about is do we actually have catchphrases that we inadvertently use that make look good in a t-shirt? So if you have thoughts, feel free to tweet them to us at our Twitter accounts, which we'll mention at the end of the episode.
So now you have to listen till the end. If you have an idea, just write it down and hold it.
Just
hold
think
it in your
about
head.
it. Just memorize it. Just say it to yourself constantly while you're listening.
I'm helpful.
Well, that was an awkward silence. That would be a fantastic catchphrase to put on a t-shirt, wouldn't it, Dixie?
Awkward silence song. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
Right.
So how many ways can we milk you for money?
Whoa.
That's going to be Matthew's catchphrase.
He is a venturer. That makes sense.
Yeah.
He's a venture fish person.
Venture fish
So
person.
I've actually now that I've had a couple of minutes, I've remembered the first time. This isn't the subject of the podcast. It's Anecdotes by Matthew. So I think I spoke at least once on this podcast about my participating in the prison LARP, where the people in the LARP are whittled down one by one. And as the LARP was going on, and my character, the backstreet surgeon, was one of the last people remaining, I was getting increasingly panicked. I think in character and out of character, I was definitely feeling the adrenaline rush. And at one point, a player who was playing a young, disturbed woman was just staring at me in absolute horror. And one of the other players asked her, why are you staring at him like that? What's wrong? What's he done? And I was just pacing backwards and forwards and justifying my existence in this prison, or why I should be allowed to survive. And she just whispered, loud enough for everyone to hear, of course, like all good pantomime whispers.
Right.
He never blinks. And it was at that point I knew that I just, if I'm, I guess, deep enough into a performance, love you, I just don't need to blink. It's just not something I need to do as much. It's not much of a superpower, I've got to be honest. It's like being able to I can make my fingers sort of turn horizontal on their joints. That's not great. It's not like, I don't know, Mel Gibson being able to dislocate his shoulders to slip into air vents. You can't do much with your fingers. Yeah. But maybe it could get me out of handcuffs one day, if the lizard people ever try and take me back.
I'm just saying, next time you get experience points, you might want to buy a Blush of Health. That would solve a lot of your problems.
Yes, remember to blink.
Spend a blood point. I blink. It's great. Are there any games upcoming or even games that exist that you guys are really excited about right now? The reason we're doing this?
The topic of this episode.
Well, I'll go if nobody else is ready.
No.
Hey,
I'm sure
Matthew,
there's one.
I just looked it up. The Guinness World Record does not have a record right now for longest stare, but according to Record Setter, someone kept their eyes open without blinking for 1 hour 5.6 seconds, and I think
that's easy.
Them better. That's what I'm saying. You could be a record holder.
So I just need to talk about vampires to someone from Guinness World Records for over an hour, and I'll be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Although it's not in Guinness World Record, it's on Record Setter. But
okay. Well, I'll get in touch with Guinness, or I'll have a Guinness, one or the other. Or both. And yeah. and we'll go from there. But in terms of games I'm looking forward to, other than the staring out game, which is of course always a winner at parties, I'm very fond of the Cults of the Blood Gods sourcebook for V5. Fancy that, talking about a game I'm developing. Because that book, as of time of recording, not to date this episode too much like we always do, is currently with White Wolf for manuscript approval, and everything we're hearing back from them is positive, which is always lovely. It's always the case for any listeners who are unaware that if you are working on a book for a licensing partner, they have the right, and quite often they exercise it, to review the manuscript and the art to make sure it's in keeping with their brand. And it makes perfect sense for a company to do that, especially if they're in the formative stages of setting up a brand, because they don't want you to release a book that is completely off kilter and presents something in a way that they don't agree with. Right. So in the case of Cults of the Blood Gods, it's off to White Wolf and Paradox, I should say, to review. And this is a book that covers vampire religion. And in previous editions of Vampire the Masquerade, vampire religion is something that has been covered to a degree with the Sabbat, of course. The Sabbat are kind of an inverted Catholic church in previous editions. And there's always been a little bits and pieces about the Bahari, the cult of Lilith, the cult of Mithras, the Cainite heresy in Dark Ages. And, of course, the followers of Set are a pretty big cult. But faith as a subject matter and the way vampires exercise it, the importance it has to immortal beings, hasn't ever really been a focus of the game. It's always been about political struggle and street-level struggle more than ecclesiastical struggle and struggle for the soul. There have been some books like State of Grace for the revised edition for Vampire the Masquerade, which almost entirely covers faith, but it was a very slim book, and I don't think a lot of people read it because it was probably one of the last books released, I think.
Yeah, it was definitely near the
for
end.
revised edition. It was when every type of book was being released. You had books on Archons, Golconda, the Inconnu, and so on. So this book is very exciting for me because it covers, to my mind, new ground. We recover some material that hasn't appeared yet in V5, like the Church of Cain, formerly the Cainite Heresy, because heresies don't call themselves heresies. The Bahari, the Church of Set, the Cult of Mithras. We also have new cults in there, like Ash Finders, who are thin bloods, who devour the ashes of destroyed elders just to kind of get a snatch of their elder power. And it's like an addictive drug. It doesn't last for long, but you can kind of eke memories out of the ashes of dead vampires, which is fun. We have a cult that ties into the Drowned legacies that proved to be very popular. They were the South American vampires that were semi-introduced in Beckett's Jihad Diary. And, of course, the Hecata, the Clan of Death. Arguably, if you want to argue, the biggest cult in World of Darkness, next to the Church of Set, because they are death worshippers. They worship the very idea, the philosophy of eschatology, the end of the world, and mastery over life and death. So they are the cult of death and undeath. And they are made up by the Giovanni, the Cappadocians, the Harbingers, the Samdi, the Lamia, and a whole bunch of other death bloodlines. All in all, that's a book that excites me a great deal.
It does sound very cool, and not because I helped write on it.
I just like how we have this whole world of books he could have picked. He could have given props to either of us, and he was like, I'm going to talk about my book first.
Yep. And I didn't blink once.
So, Dixie, what books are you looking forward to?
Does that be one I'm working on? I don't...
I mean, it doesn't have to be.
I'm very confused. I will not be talking as long as Matthew did about any of these, because I don't develop books, so I'm not quite as tuned into any of them. I am looking forward to a few of our books. I'm looking forward to, I'd say, Aberrant and Scion Demigod a whole lot right now.
Mm-hmm.
Aberrant I'm looking forward to partially because I've been doing that live stream of it, and it's super, super fun, and that's really my first introduction to it because I haven't edited it yet.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been having a lot of fun doing that. We're actually bringing that back for a couple more episodes.
Oh, cool.
Be more collateral damage, and since the last episode, I have actually gotten my haircut like that character I'm playing.
Nice.
So I don't have to pull my hair back anymore because I shaved half my head.
Hooray.
But yeah, I am looking forward to Aberrant. I think there's some really cool things with scale and with the superhero concept, and updating it from its previous edition that I think are super, super fun. And then I'm also really looking forward to Demigod because I did write on that. And I just got my red lines back. And I'm working on some underworlds and things, and I think Demigod's going to have a really cool play style just because once you get above hero, which is still kind of mortal tier, even though you're doing cool things, the game gets a little bit weirder and you go to a little bit stranger places and you interact with gods more and, you know, more steps on the heroic journey, such as going to the underworld and coming back. That are all very important to the myth of Scion.
Yeah, that's one thing that I really liked about when Neil started talking to me about Demigod is because the original first edition of Demigod was basically just here's more stuff, here's your original stuff, but more powerful.
Right.
And it's a valid design decision, but you never really felt like you were playing a different game. It was just a bigger version of the previous game. Whereas with Demigod, it definitely feels like Neil's trying to make it so the playstyle is distinctly different. So it's still the same characters, still the same continuity, but now the game's taking a different direction. It's going a different way, and the mechanics and the overall structure of the book will make it kind of reflect this slightly different take on the game, which I think is really interesting and compelling.
Well, yeah, because it's like becoming any supernatural creature. Like what happens is you lose your humanity,
right? As
you start to become, something else entirely.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that I think a lot of World of Darkness games explore, a lot of Chronicles games explore, even like Exalted explores, and Scion kind of needs to. Because if you're literally playing gods by the end of it, like gods are fundamentally different from mortals. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
And for me, the couple of the Onyx Path books I'm looking forward to are one is LegendLore, actually, because it'll be our first pure 5e book that isn't Scarlands. Which sounds like a weird set of qualifiers, but I mean, Scarlands is kind of an entrenched, established property, and Pugmire is not exactly 5e. But this is a new kind of book for us in the sense that we've never really done a 5e book with a new license from scratch. Scarlands, again, we had the old material to draw from. So I'm curious how it's going to turn out, especially because of the idea that you can play yourself or modern people who are drawn into a fantasy world. I'm really excited to see how that works out. And Steffi DeVan, the developer, from what she's been talking to me, she has a lot of really cool ideas on how to reflect that, how to kind of give a taste of what you were in the real world and how that impacts into a 5e style game design, as well as digging really deep into the comics lore and backstory and really emphasizing those. So it becomes just, if you want to just play it as another cool fantasy world for your 5e game, you don't need to use that component of humans drifting in and out. But also, there are things like crashed airplanes in this world, and how does that change how fantasy world works? I haven't seen the manuscript yet, actually, so I'm definitely I'm excited to see when it comes in, what it's going to look like. The other one is actually They Came From Beneath the Sea.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, remember that game?
What?
It's because it's been a minute since we talked about it, but I mean, it's a comedic game, and those are just so rare to do because they're so hard to do. It's hard to do a game that's just explicitly funny, and plus I feel like the Mystery Science Theater-ish vibe is going to be really fun. I even though I've written a little bit on it and I've been involved in various parts of production with it, I've not actually played it yet. And it's something I do want to sit down and play it at some point in time, because it just seems, everything I've heard from, everything I've seen, seems like it's just a fun game, especially for a one-shot style game.
Let's have a game of it in midwinter.
Yeah, that would be actually cool.
Yeah.
Can I play? I want to play.
I would love for you to play, and no, that is sincere, because I receive a fair amount of credit for They Came From, and I'll take it because I conceived it. But at the same time, the team that were on that book were wonderful writers, Eddy among them, and Eddy, you wrote a brilliant systems chapter, and that's not a small piece of praise to my mind, because systems can read entirely dry and not be engaging, and I think you really cracked it with They Came From. But I also swing that praise over to Dixie, because good comedy needs a damn good editor to make it sharp, make it cutting, make it actually not so in your face that it becomes overbearing. And there are a few books. Obviously, I've spoken a fair amount about how much I appreciate your quality of editing, but I think this is the book for me where I read through your edits and I think I agreed with every single one of them. I thought, yes, you are absolutely correct. This needs to be amended to make it better. So, it really is a team effort. And I'm also really looking forward to seeing how it lands, because occasionally I'm asked, what kind of game would you love to see on the market next? Or what's an area, what's a genre that doesn't get covered enough to your mind? And for me, and I know we always go back to that question of what is fun, but for me, it is a genuinely fun RPG.
Right.
It's why Pugmire and Monarchies of Mao are so special to me as a guide and as a player. And it's why They Came From is so special to me as a creator, because I love games that I can just pick up and run and know that everyone around the table is going to have a good time. That it doesn't require a massive amount of introspection. It can bring it, but it's a game that you can just sit down and enjoy, like a board game, like a card game, except it's got that added bit of engagement because you are playing a role.
Yeah.
It's something
I've been noticing recently. My family are running two different D&D games at the same time. My wife is running a very intricate city-based water deep game with lots of intrigue and mystery and political machinations. And my roommate David, he's just running dungeon crawl. There's story, there's connectivity, there's still characters, it's still well run, but it's very explicit. There's one game where I had to read like 30 pages of backstory and figure out what the different terminology of Waterdeep is and how the city's structured and how the different political elements tie together. And there's one where I just show up with my monk and be stuck with my staff and move on. And I realized I do enjoy both. Sometimes I don't have the time to always have the deep, intricate knowledge of the game. But I've realized that both of them excite me differently. Even though they're the exact same system, I feel like I'm getting different experiences out of them because there's different expectations going into them. So you're right. There is definitely a place in the market for more games that are just kind of that pick up and play. It's just, fun. And there's nothing more to it than that. There can be, like you say, but that's an opt-in component. But there is still definitely value of the, we're going to take some time and really prepare, come up with intricate backstories, figure out a way that to dig deep into the elements of this particular campaign. I think both of them are valid. So it's nice that we as a company are diversifying and doing more of both of those kinds of games. Speaking of other games, are there other non-Onyx Path games that you guys are excited about?
They just announced a book I worked on at Fantasy Flight.
Oh, which one?
It's called Path of Waves. It's the Ronin book.
Ooh.
For L5R.
Yeah.
So it's the book for playing samurai who aren't connected to a house or a clan or a lord. It's also the book that introduces how you can play Gaijin in the world of Rokugan.
Oh, okay.
And what that kind of means. I know in prior editions of L5R, to my knowledge, this is kind of hearsay, so don't, beat me up if I'm wrong. But I've been told that it was kind of just like, they're not allowed in Rokugan. Like, there are no outsiders in Rokugan. They're not allowed. And that's really strange.
Right.
and xenophobic. So in this one, it's more like, they're not common, but they are around sometimes. And where you go and who you talk to kind of depends on what reception you get. Or kind of influences what reception you get. So that's very cool. And there's also a supplemental adventure coming out with it that was announced that I also worked on. So I proofed the book itself, and then I edited the adventure.
Nice.
And I am super excited for them because the Ronin book was a lot of fun. It had some really cool spells. It has some really cool new backstories and new places you can be from, and just new places in the world to go explore. And I like what L5R has been doing recently, where they release kind of a core supplement, if you will, and then they already have 2 or 3 adventures to go with it right away.
Oh, okay.
That's kind of been their model recently, is they'll release this core book like the Shadowlands book, and then they'll release an adventure in PDF form like same day. That's like, hey, here's the Shadowlands book, which has some stuff in it, and also here's an adventure if you want to play this. So I've been enjoying that model, and also it means that I get more work, because sometimes I get to work on all 3 projects.
But it does sound like kind of an outsider's book overall, and it sounds like it's really fun, because you're right, L5R has not been great about, they've really so focused on the houses. They don't often talk about the other sides of the world.
Yeah, so this doesn't really go too far outside, but it does give some detail on a couple of the nearby places, which is cool. Like there's whatever, because so Rokugan is the cipher for Japan,
right?
Obviously, so there are some ciphers for parts of the Middle East and I think Africa in this one.
Okay.
It's kind of like, here's what's on the other side of this, and what it's fantasy versions, just like Rokugan is fantasy Japan. But that's kind of the cultures those are modeled after, and I'm excited for it, and it's going to be really cool, and it gives you just some new options to play. Playing as a Ronin character as an outsider definitely appeals to me as a player.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping we've talked with some of my friends about maybe running L5R at some point, and I'm wondering if we're going to be able to do it with Path of Waves, because that'd be really cool.
I feel like that might be a good way to get people who aren't as familiar with the backstory of Rokugan to be able to say, okay, you're playing a Ronin or a Gaijin, and kind of get invested into the political machinations of the houses, and then maybe switching to a character that is more embedded in that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. I also really appreciate L5R 5th edition, at least, because that's the one I'm familiar with, because the one that I've worked on the most,
Right.
for being very good about saying, like, hey, don't do weird accents, don't be racist at the table, like, be respectful of cultures. Like, that's really awesome. I know some of the folks they've hired for it have helped reinforce that.
Oh, good.
So, like, I'm not as familiar with the previous editions, but I've heard that they weren't quite as great. But, you know, that's kind of like almost any game that was produced more than 5 years ago.
Sure, it's 20-year-old property, 20-plus-year-old property. So, I mean, yeah, it's going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. Like, we could talk about almost any role-playing game and be like, you know, go back and look at the initial editions of it and kind of go, ooh.
Oh, the early...
Wish they hadn't done that.
The early Vampire the Masquerade Asian
Yep.
bloodlines were not great.
What, you don't love the Ravnos and the Assamites?
No.
Or the Gaki and the Bushi. They were the original Japanese and Chinese Vampire the Masquerade bloodlines before the Wang Kui or Kui Jin or whatever awful term. Anyway, but on the plus side of L5R, those books, as well as always being incredible fun to read, always look absolutely stunning. The artwork in L5R is magnificent. So I really look forward to seeing another book coming out, especially if it's fun to read. That's one of those other factors, I guess, like having games that are fun to play. I look forward to books that I can just engage with, and so Eclipse Phase 2nd Edition is one such game. I know I have harped on about Eclipse Phase before, about it being one of my favourite RPGs, and the 2nd edition has the PDFs have recently gone out to Kickstarter backers, and hard
it's also
copies.
on Drive-Thru RPG, if anybody wants the PDF.
And hard copies are in the process of getting into people's hands too. I have backed it myself. And it's one of those books that marries setting with system, with science and readability so very well that I can just sit down and read Eclipse Phase for fun.
Really?
And that isn't something you can say for every single RPG, because sometimes an RPG can read like an encyclopedia where you need to cross-reference this with this, and you jump to this page if you need to find out more about reading this type of character or creating this kind of character, I should say. But Eclipse Phase, especially the 2nd edition, I can very much vouch for this game because I've read the PDF from page 1 to whatever the last page is, without interruption, without having to jump back and forth to refresh my memory on anything. It was just that enjoyable.
Wow.
So I really look forward to having a hard copy. I understand there was some at Gen Con, but I wasn't at Gen Con, so I wasn't able to get one. But that's fine, because as I say, I've backed it, and it's a book I really look forward to receiving in the next few months.
The art and layout are beautiful, and if anybody wants to get into it and they don't want to read the mechanics right away, the fiction collection After the Fall is also super good.
Yep, very true.
I was gifted that by one of our friends, and it is very, very good. It definitely kind of gets you into the world. Yeah,
those are both kind of on my massive to read stack, but I did start reading through 2nd edition recently, and the fiction, you're right, is I've only gotten as far as fiction, but the fiction already is fantastic. It really helps you. Also,
it's just a beautiful game.
Yeah.
Like if you're into that genre especially, but like it's a beautiful game. All the art's really cool. It's very inclusive. Post-Human Studios in general seem to be really decent people. Yeah. Just from the ones I know and like hear about. Full disclosure, friends with at least one of them.
Right.
But yeah, like it's a gorgeous book. It's so well laid out. It's well arted. It's well written. You can just tell that, like, there are always people with every Kickstarter project that ends up being late that are yelling about it online constantly.
Sure.
And, like, it happens. We do estimates. We do our best estimates. Sometimes shit happens. But when you get a book after the wait that's just that beautiful, it's hard to be mad because I'm like, well, I couldn't have done this in the time they did it, and
Yeah, right.
good on them.
And I'll say this isn't just for Eclipse Phase, although it is something that I remember the first edition got. It was often pointed at first edition with this phrase: "It's so big, I don't know what to do with it." Which could be a euphemism, but we'll move on from that.
I was fighting so hard to not say that's what she said.
Thank you. Okay, we're going back to Cockstarter now, and this one's on back a cock. That won't work as well. Anyway, the world of Eclipse Phase, being the solar system and beyond via gates, Pandora gates, is such an expansive setting, and there's so many options for the players that it is one of those games that can give a player on first read through choice paralysis. Do I play someone in an octomorph, or do I play someone in a nanomorph, or do I play this or that or the other? Which part of the solar system do I come from? What kind of philosophy do I ascribe to? That kind of thing. And we sometimes get that exact same view when it comes to some of our Chronicles of Darkness games, when there's a lot of playable splats. Even World of Darkness, going back to Revised Edition, when you had all 13 clans presented up front, and especially Mage the Ascension, for that matter. But what I always recommend to a games master running any of these respective games where there's a lot of potential playable options is you just focus in. You just narrow down on the bit you're interested in. You don't need to worry about what's going on Jupiter's moons or what's going on the dark side of Mercury.
I'm very concerned about both of those things now.
Well, the thing is, you can see them on newscasts. You can read about them. They can be flashes of peripheral information. But if your character's story is set on Mars, or if you are gate crashers, then you don't need to know about the entire rest of the plot. And I think some people feel like, well, that diminishes the setting, but there's no reason the next campaign you play it can't be in another completely different part of the solar system. And that's how I've always thought about big settings like the Forgotten Realms or Planescape, all the way through to the World of Darkness or Eclipse Phase.
I feel like,
just focus in on what you're interested in.
I feel like that advice would work for Trinity Aeon too.
Yeah,
definitely.
That's one thing about Aeon is that you can have a game set entirely on Earth, or you can have a game set entirely in space very far away. And I think some people worry about how to reconcile those things. And it's like, well, what are your characters doing? And that's something that, players and their story guides talk about beforehand. Is like, what kind of game are we playing? Because if you want to play a really politically charged game, then maybe you just want to set it on Earth around, one of the strange areas or big cities there. Or are you playing, more of an adventure, go liberate people, help people settle kind of game, then you can be hopping around all over the galaxy. So yeah.
And I think there's a lot of value in taking an expansive world and focusing on just a small piece of it for your chronicle.
Yeah, totally.
I ran a 20th anniversary vampire game a few years back. And one of the things I said is you can only play neonate generations, only 7 core Camarilla clans, and you can't have any more than 1 dot in status. And for a little bit, people are like, but I want to play this and blah blah. It's okay, well, let's find a way to take that concept and build it into the restrictions I have. But it allowed me to do things like when I introduced a Giovanni character, people were like, oh my god, it's Giovanni. And then when they fought against the Sabbat, it's like, they became a threat because it was a part of the world that was walled off to them, and so now it became interesting and novel when they got to see it. So sometimes having that small focus at the start of a game allows you to bring in world detail over time that then there's more benefit for that than just, well, everything's out there, I could play anything.
Yeah, one of my favorite D&D campaigns I ever played, we had the restriction that we all had to be dwarves from the same family.
Oh, wow.
Or same, clan, essentially.
Yeah.
And we all had to be neutral or above was the rule, just to make it easy. But we were going because we had this like ancestral home that had been lost to time, and we set out to find it. Which, you know, made us all care about it because we were all the same family, so we all cared about things, you know, that our family would care about. Yeah. And first we like went to town and grabbed our wizard, who was also part of our family but was living in town like a weirdo. We were like, why are you living here? This is not where dwarves live. So we went and got him, a wizard or a sort of, you know, he was a caster of some sort. And then we set off to find our lost family home, which was flooded and all kinds of cool stuff, and we fought all kinds of, you know, baddies, whatever. But I actually really enjoyed that for the same reason. Like, you're a small band of, you know, some kind of narrow focus, but it makes sense in the long run, and it allows the GM to kind of go like, okay, like here's the world you know, and now let's expand that.
Absolutely.
It's funny because I once played in an all-dwarf D&D game as well.
Really?
And
I guess this is a thing.
Yeah, well, except I was one of these precocious players who insisted on playing something special and different. So I was a half-orc adopted into the dwarven family. That's where I was playing my one-man band bard.
Oh no!
I think have I mentioned my one-man band bard before? Let me tell you about my character.
I don't know if you have, but I want to hear about it now.
So he went through a few iterations. We actually played for long enough for him to change his performance type. So when he started out, he was a one-man band, and his name was Clarusk Grunt Futtock. His performance was he had a big drum on his back, he had a ukulele, and the rest of the trappings of being one-man band. And as we were going over the hills, the horizon, like hobbits in Lord of the Rings, he was going boom, boom, ding-a-ling, boom. And I had something like an automatic -20 to all stealth rolls. It was just fun to be going through a dungeon crawl, and when I was creeping, it was more of a boom, boom. Because anywhere I was going, I couldn't remove this contraption. So in the end, the dwarves with whom I was adventuring insisted that I remove all of these instruments, much to my unhappiness, and so I became a master of limericks.
Oh no!
And now I'm going to test myself. Can I remember any of them? You don't want to hear any of them. But yeah, I penned a whole bunch of limericks by Clarusk Grunt Futtock that ended up, I think everyone cheered when my character ended up dying. And I think I did as well.
That seems fair.
I have no regrets, but it's a more conscientious Matthew probably wouldn't have introduced that, because I imagine that probably ruined the GM's game. It certainly wasn't going to be grim and serious about, oh, your family have all died in a burned down village, now you've got to get revenge. As I march into battle for my family, I will write a limerick about Sauron. See how he likes it.
Oh my god.
Oh my god. I love when you're telling a story about about a funny thing that happened, 10 years ago or whatever. And this happens to everybody I know, including myself. And you hit that point in the story where you kind of look up and you go, it is I who is the asshole. And having those moments of realization, you're like, oh yeah, it was super funny. Everybody else was playing good characters and I was playing a chaotic evil character, so of course I kept doing all this stuff to fuck up their plans and murdering things in front of them, and I thought it was really funny.
It's like I can picture in slow motion the recording of me looking around the table, all the players laughing, hammering the table, and then my eyes fall on the GM and he's just morose.
He's got his head in his hand. It's just fucking limericks. Yeah.
Did I ever tell you the story?
Oh god. Can we read this episode Matthew's Anecdote Corner?
Did I ever tell you the story about that? It was a vampire player I once played with. I don't know whether he listens to this. His name was JP. and
He's
would
calling
remove
you
his
out,
front,
brother.
Yeah, he would remove his front teeth at the table. Oh, yeah, obligatory wrestling reference. Very good. And it was one of my first. It was, in fact, I think. No, it wasn't Vampire. It was a game of Slay Industries. And
Those are
JP
pretty
was
different games.
Yeah, well, JP was the very first vampire storyteller I had, so this is where it's getting mixed up. But anyway, this could be the pubcast. I've been
It was actually
drinking
tennis.
all day.
Actually, it was Candyland.
Yeah. So he was sat on the opposite side of the table to me, and I was playing a Stormer, and a Stormer is this vat-grown killing machine in Slay Industries. And at some point in Slay Industries is a game where the players, characters, the operatives, often do screw each other over to win better sponsorships, to call out treacherous behaviour on behalf of Slay Industries and that kind of thing. And I remember with my Stormer, there was another player's character who was crawling up through a hatch that I had already come up through, and he had done some very naughty things on camera that the company would not have rewarded him for. He had humiliated the company, so I shot him in the back of the head as he was climbing up this ladder, and he died. And JP started laughing on the other side of the table. And he was laughing so much that I started laughing. And he was in tears of laughter. So I was suddenly in tears of laughter. It was like a joint hysteria, but it was very strange because it wasn't even that funny a thing to happen.
Right.
And he started hammering the table, and he was sort of going, ah, ah, as he was laughing in the most outrageous display of hysterics that I'd ever seen. And of course, this was making me laugh even more. I was struggling to breathe. And so I was kind of pointing at him and laughing, and everyone else around the table just was finding it mildly amusing, but not nearly as amusing as the person who performed the act and his chief audience, JP. What it turned out had happened was JP had giggled. He thought this was amusing, but JP had an issue with his right knee where it would lock in place.
Oh, no.
And it would cause him excruciating pain. And when he just laughed a little, it had jerked his leg and locked his knee in place. And when he was going, and hammering the table, it was because he was in immense pain. And I was just pointing and laughing at him. And crying with laughter at his agony, because I thought he found my actions in the role-playing game funny. But no, it was, in fact, he had to be carried out.
Because it was I who was the asshole.
That was a genuine case of mistaken, I guess, tragedy for humour for tragedy. But yeah, at the time it was amusing.
Was it though?
Well, it was for me.
So much funny.
God.
I just realized that I have actually not mentioned my game that I'm excited about, which is fine. But speaking of 20-year-old games,
You actually did. You talked for quite a bit about that game from Beneath the Sea.
well, yes, but then we did the games that are not Onyx Path games.
No one cares.
Wow! And this is why we haven't talked for several weeks.
Yeah, what is this? The not Onyx Pathcast? No, Eddie. Which non-Onyx Path game?
I don't want to tell you now. I feel like I've been called out.
I'm just morose. You all left me. I've been very sad.
No, we're back now. Until I leave again.
Until
I didn't leave. You were giving me random calls about Werewolf the Forsaken late at night.
Until you leave Atlanta, Eddie, the same day I show up there.
Because I'm
because you hate me.
Yeah, obviously, clearly that's the reason, and not because two conventions are at the same time.
Fleeing, I tell you.
But Cyberpunk Red looks cool. I actually
Yeah.
That was a horrible segue, but I had to jam it in there.
No, it does look cool. I'm excited about it.
I've been a huge fan of Cyberpunk and the 2020 version of it. Actually, I'm a fan of Cyberpunk before it was 2020. It was actually still the first edition.
That's Cyberpunk 2077.
Yeah, it's on pre-order. It's going to happen.
Yep.
But Cyberpunk Red Jumpstart kit was at Gen Con. It was the only thing I bought at Gen Con. It was like, I went there. I was like, cool, mine, done. Now I can do the rest of the show. It's a cool box set, and it has a very classic style. And it has a box set, has standees, has a double-sided map, has some a rules book and a world book. And so I'm flipping through, and a lot of it's set in 2045, so it's kind of between 2020 and the 2077 game coming out, which is interesting.
Okay, cool.
I thought it would be 2077, but actually it's kind of the backstory to the video game coming out, which is such a neat way of doing it.
I like that.
And a lot of the stuff, it's recognizable. They retcon certain parts of continuity because it doesn't make sense anymore or whatever. Certain corporations are going on, new corporations place, usual kind of thing I expect. But the one thing I was excited about was the cyberware section. Because both Shadowrun and Cyberpunk have in the past had kind of problematic interpretations of cyberware in terms of prosthetics for people with disabilities.
Right.
And I had heard through the grapevine through my friends at Arch Historians, like, no, we've actually made some pretty big changes in that front. I was like, okay, cool. So in the original game, if you took too much cyberware, you lost all your humanity, you gained cyberpsychosis, which is not a great interpretation. But it was playing off the original kind of 90s era of, too much technology, and it actually makes you less human, original classic cyberpunk kind of trope. Now it's you only get cyberpsychosis if you are previously had a mental illness, and this exacerbates it. So if you were psychotic, then this makes it worse. But otherwise, if you were taking on things for disability or for gender correction, any of that stuff, that's just normal and doesn't impact your character at all. It's just you're getting stuff to make your character what they need to be. That's it. And I think it's a really nice approach to say, hey, if I get my hearing aid, nothing mechanically changes on my sheet. I mean, obviously I get the benefits of having the cybernetics, but I don't lose humanity or anything like that. Trans people, it's like, when you get surgery to correct that to your correct gender, that's just what it is. There's no loss of that either.
I think the preferred term is usually gender affirmation surgery. But
apologies.
Or gender affirmation instead of correction, because correction implies something is wrong.
My apologies.
It's fine.
The intent was more that you go to the gender you were supposed to be rather than the gender you were born.
You're not born in gender,
right? You know what I'm saying. My apologies. I'm doing this all from off the top of my head. The book,
I do understand what you're saying.
The book is better about it, and I appreciate you correcting me. The book is better explaining this than I am doing. But the point is that that's just not. Before, that would have been a humanity loss and was explicitly positioned as such, and that has changed to where that is no longer the way it is positioned. And I thought that was really cool. The fact that they're taking this older property and finding ways to update it so it's more modern sensibilities. They're called agents now, but basically they're portable computers. And before, a cell phone was like a 90s era cell phone, was big and clunky, and you called people and it had maybe a few addresses, and that was it. And that was like cutting edge technology. And now they have agents, which are basically cell phones. But it builds off of the existing technology in the game to update it to something that's a little more like we expect technology to be now.
Right.
So it's exciting to see, like you said, with our older games trying to update and keep themselves modern and inclusive and more approachable, while not invalidating the past history of the game. And I'm always excited about that kind of stuff.
And speaking of games too that have cool enhancements and stuff, we have the Deviant Kickstarter coming up fairly soon.
It's true.
So that's going to be awesome. Deviant the Renegades.
When is that starting?
We don't have a date yet, but sometime in September. Probably early.
How many Renegades?
More than one is the important thing there. It's Renegades. That is one thing that I think people mistype a lot. And someone asked me about it a while back. They're like, why is it always this one? I'm like, because it's the only one we have that's plural. And they're like, oh. It's like, yeah. Like all the other Chronicles of Darkness game lines are not plural at the end. But this one is because there's more than one renegade. I guess Anecdotes is plural.
Yeah.
I always forget about that one. Huh. Well, it is plural, but for some reason people don't call it Geist the Sin Eater.
Right.
Or maybe they do. Maybe I just haven't seen that typo.
Fair enough.
I correct Eddy. Eddy corrects me. It's a good relationship.
We're all happy.
I'm not going to correct anyone. You're all wrong.
That's fair.
I'm very much looking forward to Deviant. It's a game I honestly don't know a huge amount about, which is worrying given I developed the Contagion Chronicle and it has a Deviant chapter and whoops.
Didn't you give the Deviant chapter to the Deviant developer though?
Yeah, I didn't actually finish off a book and think, you know what, fuck it, I'll do whatever I want, like I do with every other book. No, I remember when obviously the developer of the game now is Eric Zawodzki. But I remember when Deviant was first being bounced around and I was in a discussion with Dave Brookshaw about it, and Dave is one of the initial minds behind Deviant and the person who ferried development up to a certain point. And so we were talking about David Cronenberg movies meeting Orphan Black and all of that idea of being lab grown or potentially experimented on and having escaped or even volunteered for experimentation, and maybe it went wrong, or maybe the conspiracy involved had plans for you that you did not agree with. I love the sheer range of possible characters you can play in Deviant just from the concept alone. When I think of all the Cronenberg movies that I love, like The Fly, like Dead Ringers, hell, even like The Brood, there's an awful lot of these movies that you can take elements from and put them very easily in Deviant. And as a massive fan of David Cronenberg, that's a win for me.
Yeah, I think some people will see in the art, like a lot of the art notes that I sent in look, monstrous on some level. It's just monster parts. Mm-hmm. But, like, the reason for that is because drawing a bunch of baseline humans is boring after a while. But you totally can be a deviant that just looks like an everyday person and then has something else going on, whether it's, mental powers like telekinesis, or whether it's nanobots that, come out of your skin and do things, or that alter things inside of you. So yeah, that's what I like about Deviant, is that I think it is the most open in terms of what your character can do. But also, the more powerful you are, the harder it is to be you. Mm-hmm. Because, it's still a horror game, and we can't have it all be just superheroes.
Right.
No.
Like, if you took out scars and you took out some of the other mechanics that we have in there, this would just be a game where you could make the Avengers, Mm-hmm. But to make someone who is Captain Marvel, essentially, you would be real screwed in terms of other things that would be happening to you.
It's funny you mentioned the way characters are sometimes depicted in role-playing games, monstrous characters that are being depicted as human, and therefore not really evoking the subject matter, I guess.
Yeah.
Because, I have a meeting with Dixie and Eddy and the rest of the Onyx Path team every Monday. We all do. It's the Monday meeting. You've probably heard of it if you're listening to this.
Monday meeting, ever heard of it?
Mm-hmm. There you go. There's another T-shirt. I don't know that one will sell, but we'll drum. We'll hammer that drum a bit more.
I'm just looking forward to the Cockstarter T-shirt.
It's a hit. But who would wear that?
Me.
I know some people.
A few people.
Some of them unironically. That's the problem. So we were talking about art notes for Mummy the Curse, because, of course, Mummy is another Chronicles of Darkness game that we hope to get on Kickstarter in the next few months, with any luck. And part of us getting games on Kickstarter is having art ready for it, because people probably wouldn't back our games as enthusiastically if they couldn't see a little of what that game will look like. And something that occurred to me only recently, looking back through Mummy the Curse First Edition, and no disparagement on the artists at all, but a lot of that art depicts regular humans. It depicts people not looking terribly mummified.
Right.
There's a few pieces here and there, but it depicts almost all mummies at that state of descent where they don't look like they've just freshly risen from the grave. They look like they have a lot of memory, but very little sechem. And so with the splats, for instance, the playable options in Mummy the Curse, we're going to go for a range. We will have characters who look almost more human than human. Some of them will be glowing with power. Others will look like mummified cadavers, utterly emaciated and with tattered bandages hanging off them, because that is important. It's something that, for whatever reason, I had never even considered before, probably this week. But it's something very important for a horror game.
Right. Well, yeah, like that's my issue with Deviant is, like, I think the only one... There's one person in one of the splat notes that's more of, like, a mental powers person. But I still asked for her... I haven't seen the art notes yet, or the art yet, so I have no idea. But I know I asked for her to look very just, like, haunted and, like, maybe, like, wasting away a little bit. Mm-hmm. Because that's something that great power can do to you in Deviant. So it's like... You know, let's compensate for the fact that she's not going to look like she's doing much by having her just look real terrified and a little creepy.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
So, yeah. But almost all the other ones have, like, you know, at least, like, lizard eyes or something going on weird. It's fun.
They don't blink.
I like doing art. Yeah, they don't blink in art. They wear suits. They run YouTube channels.
What kind of deviant would I be? My own unique kind of deviant. But am I a renegade? No, I'll probably work for the conspiracy willingly.
Ugh, really?
Well, you know, it's cool to be bad.
You're the worst.
It's not cool to be the worst. No, that's a different kind of bad. Yeah, it's cool to be just shit.
You know it's cool to be shit.
I think I've sworn more in this episode than I have on any other.
It has been a bit free with the profanity, but that's okay.
Yeah, a bit of blue for the lads.
That's fine. That's fine. So, Matthew, if people wanted to talk to you about what conspiracy you would willingly embrace, where do they find you online?
They could find me on MatthewDawkins.com. They could also subscribe to the Onyx Path YouTube channel or the Gentleman Gamer YouTube channel. I do recommend following the Onyx Path Twitch channel because we have a whole ton of content coming out almost on a daily basis now.
Yeah, we're an affiliate too.
Yep.
Yay!
We are. Yep. We've broken 4,000 subscribers on our Onyx Path YouTube channel too, which it may not sound like a lot, but for a channel that has only really been cranking out content on the regular for the last, I guess, 6 months or so, that's pretty good going. Yeah. So yeah, please do subscribe to us there and follow us on Twitch. And yeah, if you need to contact me, there's a handy button on MatthewDawkins.com.
And Dixie?
A handy button?
Yes, it's not shaped like a hand, unfortunately.
Oh, that's not
Maybe
fun.
It should be.
Just a little hand.
Tiny little hand.
I don't know how people would put that with contact, but maybe like a high five.
There you go.
Kind of thing. Handshake.
Do a high five.
High five.
Where do they find you online?
I don't know.
I know. Hiding in a corner.
I don't know. I'm sad because everybody left me. You can find me playing games on Twitch sometimes. You can also find me at Dixie Cyanide most places. That actually includes Twitch. I've never streamed anything on my own, though. So you can follow my Twitch channel if you want. But it's never produced content. So
just following an empty channel.
Either. You can follow any channel you want. But yeah, you can find me at Dixie Cyanide most social media, DixieCochran.com. We do have an Onyx Path Publishing Discord that I keep trying to plug. It's super fun. If you're enjoying our streams or you enjoy our games, you can come talk about them there. We have channels for every single game that we produce. We also have started doing a looking for group channel for anybody that's trying to play our games online. So that's a cool place to be. It's not, super huge yet, but we do have quite a few people on there, and we get more every day. So come check that out.
Absolutely. And
I will say, Eddie, before you start talking, because I've not spoken enough in this
fair. I
episode.
appreciate that.
I feel like the reins have come off because I've been fairly subdued in some of the most recent episodes.
You actually have, and then this one, you're just all over the place.
I thought, well, I'm back. I'm back, baby. What was I going to say? Yeah, so regarding Dixie's Twitch channel with no followers.
Hey!
So there's I don't know whether he still does it. There's a British comedian by the name of Richard Herring. He used to do a podcast where he was just playing pool by himself. Well, I don't know, snooker by himself. And he was commentating over his own matches. And he was just doing a new episode every week of him just playing snooker by himself. And he said he would only stop producing these when it had no listeners at all. So it started off with 1,000 listeners, and it was just slowly reducing when people realised nothing interesting happens. But as a form of art, it's quite interesting because people still listen to the damn thing. Just so he has to carry on doing it.
That's pretty great, actually.
It's like,
I kind of love that.
That is...
That's why we're still doing this.
Right. We're not down to 0 listeners yet.
We have listeners.
We'll have to keep trying.
Yeah.
Yes, right. Where to find me? I've actually changed things up a bit recently. Now both eddyfate.com and pucksteady.com point to my brand new website, which is made by the same people that made Matthew and Dickie's website. So, thank you, Meredith.
I was going to say, is it people or is it...
Person. I mean, it's a person. Meredith contains multitudes.
Meredith does contain multitudes. That's why we're going to interview her soon.
Yes, we are, actually, fairly soon. So you can find me there, all my social media stuff there. If you want to find me in general now, my professional social media accounts are Pugsteady, Pugsteddy. It's Eddy and Pugsteady kind of merged together. Or just go to the website, and there can be links there to take you to my social media accounts. And like Dixie said, check out the Onyx Path Discord, check out our website, theonyxpath.com. If you have suggestions of limericks or whatnots, or catchphrase suggestions, Twitter is probably the best place to put them.
Don't tempt me, Frodo.
Can we fit this limerick on a t-shirt is my question.
I mean, yeah, you can. There's a company that puts entire book text on t-shirts.
Oh, really?
You put a limerick on a t-shirt. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, it's a thing. I think it's cool.
I'll have to check that out, actually.
So there once was an Onyx Pathcast.
You already missed a syllable.
Yeah.
Oh, well, fuck it then. That's what our limerick will say. There once was an Onyx Pathcast. Well, fuck it then.
And with that, many worlds, fuck it.
Dum 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 ka 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 ha ha ha.